Good morning, everyone. This is John with Gun Deals, and today we're taking a look at a very cool upper receiver from Aero Precision. This is their 12.5-inch M4 E1 upper receiver. But before we get into the video, if you don't know, Gun Deals is a website that provides you with links to some of the best prices and products in the industry. Whatever it is that you happen to be looking for can probably be found on their website for the best possible price. They don't take your money, they don't buy or sell anything. Once again, they only point you in the right direction. Now, with that out of the way, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe, as all of that is free and does help out the channel quite a bit. Also, go ahead and comment literally anything down below. Now, full disclosure on the Aero Precision M4 E1, this 12.5-inch with the 12-inch ATLAS R-ONE upper receiver. We did purchase this with our own money. However, we did pay a dealer price for the upper receiver. I personally have an account with Aero Precision. As a dealer, I do buy a lot of their products for some of my builds, but just keep in mind that there is somewhat of a relationship there. Now let's go ahead and get into the specifics of this 12.5-inch Aero Precision upper receiver. If you don't know, Aero Precision isn't necessarily like a mid-tier company. A lot of people look at them as sort of like the best entry-level company. They're not quite at the price of like BCM or DD or other companies. However, they're not particularly cheap either. So they're kind of a middle-of-the-road company in that regard. They don't produce cheap stuff, but they also don't produce top-tier, very expensive items either. Now, the cost of this upper receiver, I believe retail, if you get one with the BCG and just like a mil-spec charging handle, in this case, this is actually a Toolcraft nickel boron BCG. But I believe the cost of this upper without the BCG and charging handle would be around $500, and then add an extra $100 for your BCG and charging handle, or if you have one laying around. So again, overall, it does kind of fill that mid-tier price category. Now, if you did not know, Aero Precision and Ballistic Advantage are basically sister companies. So this has a 12.5-inch Ballistic Advantage barrel, though it is branded as Aero Precision. So this is a 12.5-inch carbine length barrel with a 1-in-7 twist made out of 4150 chrome moly vanadium steel with a 1-in-7 twist. Overall, we will get into accuracy on the barrel, but it was not only a decent shooter in terms of its gas setting. It is a little bit over gas, but we'll get into that later on, but it was also fairly accurate as well. This specific model comes with the 12-inch ATLAS R-ONE Handguard. Now, the Aero Precision handguards are nice handguards. They are very aesthetically pleasing. They're fairly lightweight. They're well thought out. They're not necessarily the strongest, most durable handguards on the market, but again, they're aesthetically pleasing and they're not too much money for the value they provide. So we have M-LOK on the 3, 6, and 9 o'clock position. We also have QD points for your sling that are anti-rotation at the back of the handguard. On top, we have a continuous piece of Picatinny rail that is scalloped out with lightning cuts and holes for ventilation as well. And the lockup to the barrel nut and upper receiver is actually quite good. I believe they call it a taper mount, though it's really a wedge lock system, and of course, built-in anti-rotation tabs as well. Now, with a 12-inch handguard, you do cover up just a little bit of your muzzle device. So if you're trying to thread on like a suppressor or something without a booster or some device to push it out a little bit, it could be somewhat difficult on this build, but it does work well with the A2 flash hider. And again, it's going to vary on what muzzle device you want to put on the gun. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to be using a break where the ports start very close to the beginning of the muzzle device, you could have some issues and end up damaging your handguard if those ports are inside of the end of the handguard. We have our standard .750 steel gas block as well as a stainless steel gas tube. The upper receiver itself, this is one of their M4 E1 upper receivers. Basically, it's just like an enhanced mil-spec upper receiver. It's a nice package, but it's not specifically better in any way than like a standard mil-spec upper receiver. Again, it's just nice. So the geometry is slightly different externally. You have a threaded pin for your forward assist, which is a nice feature to have, especially in assembly. However, again, it's not going to change the function of it all that much. On top of that, you do have some material removed from your top Picatinny rail section as well. They are T-marked as well if you care about that sort of thing. Overall, it is more aesthetically pleasing than your mil-spec forged upper receiver, but again, in function, they are for all intents and purposes identical. Now, again, this one did not come with a charging handle or BCG, so I threw in just a standard mil-spec charging handle and one of my Toolcraft nickel boron BCGs, and it has been running very well. Now, in terms of part selection and quality, everything ranges from good to very good. So when you get one of these upper receivers out of the box, there is no substandard components on the upper receiver. Again, everything is at either a good or a very good level of quality. So again, out of the box, you are getting a good package that does justify the price tag. It's not crazy expensive, but again, it's not also the cheapest stuff on the market. Now, when it comes to assembly, it's also assembled fairly well. So on the threads on your upper receiver, you actually do have anti-seize applied so that when you take your barrel nut off in the future, if you ever needed to swap out your barrel, it is fairly easy to do so. All of the fit and finish, everything on the upper receiver was again to a very high level. All of the machining looks very good. There were no problems in that regard. Really, the one knock that I would say on the upper receiver assembly is that ballistic advantage barrels unfortunately are not pinned from the factory, or not pinned, sorry. They're not dimpled from the factory. That is something you have to do after the fact. So the gas block is just your standard set screw style of gas block. And as far as I could tell, they didn't put any high temperature thread locker on the set screws on the gas block either. So over time that could loosen up, and it's not a dimpled barrel at all. So when those start to loosen up, the entire gas block could move, and then of course your system will stop running. So if I had to make one change, I would like the gas block barrel to be dimpled, and then of course pinned is like a step above that. But a dimpled barrel with gas block set screws that are torqued appropriately will of course work just fine. Not everything needs to be pinned, but again, it is something that we would like to see as an additive preventative step. Now, when it comes to performance and actually shooting the upper receiver, currently we have about 600 rounds on it. We have not experienced a single failure on it, which is good. Shooting a lot of just basic ball ammunition as well as a lot of crappy steel cased ammunition. On top of that, we were also able to take this upper receiver with, I believe we were using the Primary Arms MD25 with the ACSS reticle and a 6x magnifier, and we were able to take it all the way out to 500 yards without issue.
All right, that was a hit.
On top of that, we also did some accuracy testing on this upper with some matched loads. We used some HSM 77 grain ammunition that, again, I think 4 rounds came in at sub MOA. Then I had a flyer, and then we had 5 rounds of atomic 77 grain, and that came in right at 1 MOA, which I am very happy with. And then again, we had a 5-round group of Nozzler 77 grain match ammunition, again, 1 flyer, and then 4 very good rounds. So overall, especially if you take out those flyers, very accurate. And again, we were able to take it out to 500 yards with just a red dot and magnifier. So overall, the performance in terms of accuracy, I would say, is again very good. I've had very good luck with ballistic advantage / Aero Precision barrels. They've all performed up to task. The one thing that I would say about the barrel is it is a little bit overgassed. So for instance, we were getting about 3 o'clock ejection with steel cased ammunition, and about 2 to 230 ejection with brass or M193, M855, so on and so forth. So it is a little bit overgassed, and sometimes you'll notice that the ejection pattern is much further back at about 3:30 to 4 o'clock, and that is when I was using an H3 buffer. So it is, again, a little overgassed, not in a bad way, not certainly unusable. It's still very pleasurable to shoot. But again, just note that it is a little bit overgassed, so you might want to throw in a little bit of a heavier buffer if you're looking for the best shooting experience. So right out of the box, the performance of the upper receiver was what I would consider to be very good. It was a good shooter, a decent shooter with very good accuracy in my opinion. The fit, the finish, the assembly, everything was installed properly right out of the box. Again, I didn't touch anything on it. The only thing that I did to it was throw in a BCG and charging handle. And again, I haven't touched it or cleaned it for the last 600-700 rounds. And it has, again, worked flawlessly. So when it comes to the value proposition on an out-of-the-box Aero upper, it's good. It's definitely not necessarily the top tier of terms of value to performance, but if you're looking for an upper receiver that you don't really want to worry about, maybe just one or two things that you change on it eventually, out of the box, the Aero Precision can make a lot of sense, especially if you get a good deal on them. They're not quite as expensive as like BCM or DD or any of the other sort of higher end builds, even though BCM isn't necessarily all that expensive, but it's definitely not going to be as cheap as your Bear Creek Arsenal, your Durkin Tacticals, Palmetto State Armory, and hopefully have a higher level of QC, assembly, all of that sort of stuff. So while it's not necessarily the nicest, most top tier build on the market, it does still provide a good level of value. The performance in terms of shooting is definitely there. I'd be happy to shoot many thousands of rounds through this upper receiver. Its accuracy, especially with certain match loads, was what I would consider very good. And again, even with just ball ammunition, we were able to take it out to 500 yards consistently. So overall, I think that the package is very good. If you get a good deal and with your handguard that you like, because of course Aero Precision has many different barrel lengths, handguards, upper receiver combinations available. So at the end of the day, I do think they are a good value. Again, if you're just looking for the cheapest upper that runs, this isn't going to be the cheapest upper that runs, but it is still going to be in that sort of mid-tier, high-value landscape. So with all of that out of the way, guys, I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know what your guys' thoughts and experiences are with Aero Precision uppers in the comments down below. Thank you guys once again for watching. I will see you in the next one. Peace off.